In 2017, a group of documentary film enthusiasts, Alexa, Leo, and Jess, decided to solve the mystery. They entered the house with cameras. 3 days later, police found the house empty. The cameras lay on the floor in puddles of salt water. One of them contained the final, distorted recording. This story, edited from their footage, diaries, and a few fragments they managed to decipher, tells the story of how silence can penetrate you, displace your thoughts, and reveal who you really were before permanently making you that person. Alexa was the leader, pragmatic, skeptical, believing only in the rational. Leo, her boyfriend, a cameraman and editor, adored ghost stories, but more as folklore. Jess, their friend and sound engineer, was quiet, observant, with a keen ear and his own trauma, the recent death of his mother. Their project, Quiet America, was dedicated to recording the sounds of abandoned places. The Wakefield house drew them in with its history. In 1923, the family, the doctor father, Elijah, the mother, Isabella, and 7 children vanished overnight. The table was set for 8, the food untouched. Everyone was gone, including the dog. No sign of a struggle, no sign of escape, only emptiness. In the following years, those who tried to live in the house went crazy, complaining of whispers from the walls and uninvited guests at the table. The house had been empty since the 1950s. Before entering town, they stopped at the only open store. The owner, a stern old man, learned of their intentions and grew gloomy. "The hill devours the noisy," he muttered, "especially those who listen too closely." Intrigued, Jess asked, "What does it do to the quiet ones?" The old man looked at him with a long, appraising gaze. "He makes the quiet ones his own. He gives them back their voice. And every one child has their own voice that makes them run." They laughed at it, chalking it up to superstition. Before them stood a house, gray, massive, Victorian, not Gothic, just tired and infinitely sad. Behind it, 100 meters away, began a cemetery with crooked angels. The first oddity awaited them on the porch. Leo stepped on the carpet and screamed. A snake slithered out from under it and ran away, but not an ordinary one. An albino, completely white, with pink eyes. "A white snake means great misfortune," he muttered. This only angered Alex. Inside, the house was a frozen nightmare. Dust, cobwebs, but no mold, no traces of animals, no mice, no insects. Absolute, sterile desolation and silence. Not the usual silence. This was a thick, cottony silence pressing on his ears. Jess immediately turned on the sensitive microphone. He winced in his headphones. The background is strange. Not quiet. It's empty. Like I'm listening through thick glass. They started on the first floor. In the dining room, the same table, still set for 8, covered in a half-century-old layer of dust. Alex touched her plate. "Guys." Her voice sounded unnaturally loud. "There's dust everywhere, but on the seats of the chairs, there's none. Like someone had sat there recently." Leo aimed the camera. A distortion flickered briefly in the viewfinder, as if each chair had a blurry shadow. He chalked it up to a glitch in the sensor. That evening, they settled into the largest room, the living room. Jess placed audio sensors throughout the house. That night, while Alex and Leo slept, he sat next to the equipment, and he heard the first sound. Not through headphones, in person. Children's laughter, not joyful but dull, monotonous. It didn't come from the hallway or the street. It came from the corner of the room, from the void. Jess froze. The laughter died down, and another sound replaced it. A quiet, rhythmic creak. The creak of a rocking chair. An empty rocking chair, standing in that very corner. It rocked by itself. Jess woke the others. When they turned on the light, the chair was motionless. But when Leo approached and touched it, his hand went cold, as if he'd touched a corpse. They assumed it was a draft, but the windows in the room were closed. The second day began with a discovery. In Dr. Elijah's office, Alex found the journal, locked in a drawer. The pages were brittle, the handwriting nervous. The final entries spoke not of a disappearance, but of an experiment. The doctor, disillusioned by the noisy, frantic world after the First World War, sought a way to create absolute peace. He studied acoustics and insulation. He wrote, "Noise is a disease of the soul. Silence is its cure and its ultimate form. My family will become quieter. They will be the first citizens of a new, soundless world." The entries broke off. Meanwhile, Jess, studying the sensor records, discovered an anomaly. At 3:33 a.m., every sensor recorded the same sound pulse, inaudible to the ear, infrasound, a frequency capable of causing panic, a sense of presence, a chill. "That explains a lot," Alex exulted. "Infrasound from wind in the chimneys or from foundation subsidence?" But Jess shook his head. "No, Alex. It didn't come by itself. It came from the center of the house. And it was modulated, like a signal. Unnatural." Leo, wandering around the second floor, made the most disturbing discovery. In the children's room, he found 7 pebbles arranged in a perfect circle on the windowsill. They were clean, dust-free, and on the wall, under a thin layer of plaster, he found words scratched by a child's hand. Not with charcoal, but with something sharp, perhaps scissors. "Daddy says we can't make noise. We study quietly. Whoever makes noise will fall through the wall." That evening, they decided to hold an active seance. Alex, a skeptic, loudly asked questions into the void. Leo filmed. Jess listened through headphones. After the 10th question, "Is anyone there?" a whisper came from Jess's headphones. Not one voice, but several, superimposed. A man's, a woman's, and a child's. They spoke in unison, tensely, like people who had forgotten how to speak. "Shh, nah, shh," noisy. Jess took off his headphones in horror, but Alex couldn't hear anything. She grew angry. "Stop fooling around, Jess!" At that moment, the heavy chandelier in the middle of the room began to sway. There was no draft, and from all 3 tape recorders, lying in different corners, the same voice came simultaneously, a girl of about 6. "Daddy said you're too loud. He's coming to teach you." Something in the house woke up, or was happy to have visitors. The night of the second day was a turning point. The silence was no longer passive. It became reactive. Every sound they made provoked a response. A footstep on a creaky floorboard, and a second later, the same creak, but with a slight, eerie distortion, came from the other room. Leo's cough and a dry, hacking cough came from behind the basement door. Alex, trying to maintain her sanity, spoke aloud, writing down logical conclusions, and her voice began to echo from the dark hallway. But not right away. After a few seconds, and each time it grew quieter, more monotonous, until the last echo turned into a lifeless whisper, ending with the word "silence." Jess was on edge. He admitted he heard more than the others. He heard more than just the answers from the house. He heard thoughts. Or rather, fragments of an alien, cold, collective mental substance. "These aren't ghosts," he muttered, pressing his palms to his ears. "They're echoes. Echoes of people forever silent. Their personalities erased. Only the last emotions remaining. Fear, resignation, a longing for sound. They want our sounds to fill their emptiness. They're like parasites. They suck out the noise, and with it, our life force." Leo, reviewing the footage, discovered figures in the frames, not a mystical fog, but clear, yet translucent silhouettes of people standing in doorways, sitting on chairs. They stared directly into the camera. Their faces were distorted, not with malice, but with emptiness. In one frame, the silhouette of Dr. Elijah stood behind a sleeping Alexa, his transparent hand resting on her mouth, as if trying to close it forever. Leo's psyche cracked. He began to whisper. Then he stopped speaking altogether, communicating with gestures. His movements became smooth, slow, so as not to make noise. He was afraid of his own breathing. Alex, seeing this, decided they needed to leave immediately, but when they rushed to the door, it didn't open, it didn't jam. The handle turned, but the massive oak door didn't budge even a millimeter, as if held by some unknown force. The windows didn't budge either, The house wouldn't let him go. Desperation gave birth to madness. Alex decided to fight the silence with noise. She grabbed a poker and began pounding on the radiators, on the walls, screaming, "Let us out!" Each blow provoked a monstrous reaction. The entire house creaked and groaned. Sound poured from every crack, from under the floor, from the walls. But these weren't her blows. It was a whirlwind of distorted voices, crying, creaking, footsteps, the clatter of dishes. All the noise the house had absorbed and digested for a century burst forth. It wasn't a cry of rage. It was indigestion. The house didn't need this noise. It needed silence. Into this chaos burst a new sound. Heavy, measured footsteps on the stairs above. Knock, knock, knock. The footsteps of the one who taught silence. Jess screamed, "He's coming! He's coming! Doctor!" Leo, his eyes full of terror, suddenly jumped up. He didn't scream. He began to sing. Loudly, out of tune, madly, a song from his childhood. It was his rebellion, his final desperate cry, and the wall next to him stirred. It didn't collapse. It seemed to become liquid, wavy, pale, translucent hands emerged from it, dozens of hands, adults and children. They embraced Leo, tenderly, almost affectionately. They began to pull him into the plaster. He didn't scream, he sang until his lips disappeared into the wall. Then the wall became solid and smooth again. Only the faint, muffled sound of the song flickered beneath it for a second, like a butterfly in a jar, and then died away. Alex was speechless. Jess looked at the wall, and something clicked in his eyes. Not fear, recognition. "It's quiet now," Jess whispered. He became silent. He became a part of them. True. Footsteps approached from the stairs. A figure stood in the living room doorway. Not a ghost with a face. It was a dense, black shadow, like a person, and around it the space seemed muffled, the sound fading before it could reach her. This wasn't the doctor's personality. It was the very idea of silence he had created, his legacy. Jess looked at this creature, then at the upset Alex, and she made a choice. Slowly, very slowly, she raised her finger to her lips, the gesture for silence, and she stepped towards the shadow. She didn't resist, she accepted. Alex saw the shadow embrace Jess, and her figure began to dissolve, as if erased from reality. Her last gaze was empty and calm. She was alone, in absolute, deafening silence. But now that silence was within her, she heard her heartbeat, and the sound seemed obscene, loud, criminal. She covered her ears with her hands, but the sound was coming from within. She realized the house wanted one last thing from her, for her to voluntarily remain silent. The police, called by concerned colleagues who had received no answer, found the house empty. The doors were open. 3 cameras were turned on in the living room, pointed at the empty space. Voice recorders lay nearby. One of them, according to the technician, contained several hours of barely audible breathing and rare, suppressed sobs that grew quieter and quieter until they stopped altogether. The main discovery came in the doctor's office. Alexa's diary lay open on the table in the dust. The last entry, written in shaky handwriting, read, "He's right. Noise is a disease. We scream to drown out the emptiness inside. I understand. I want silence. Just silence. I'm beginning to hear music in it. It is beautiful. And it calls. I'm going. I'll be quiet. I'll be good. The sentence trailed off. Leo and Jess's bodies were never found. Alex was discovered a month later in a mental hospital in a neighboring state. She was found wandering the fields, completely mute, her eyes dull. She responded only to sharp sounds. They made her curl up and cover her head with her hands, as if she'd been struck. In her pocket, they found a handful of dust and a small, pure white stone. The house in Silent Hill still stands. Sometimes, teenagers looking for a thrill approach it. The most attentive among them notice something strange. If you remain silent long enough and listen carefully, from the house sometimes comes, not a sound, but a lack of concentration that makes your ears pop. And it seems as if someone is standing in the dark windows, watching, not with malice, with anticipation, waiting for the moment when you finally get tired of your own voice, your own heartbeat, the noise of your own thoughts?